Welcome, everybody, to the other side of the glass, the Facebook Live series brought to you by us, the Just Add Bourbon podcast. I'm Jimmy Don Kerr,
I'm Brad Broadus.
and our man JD is missing in action. I'm going to assume that he is coaching football somewhere. At least that's what I'm going to go with, Brad. We could probably, he's probably getting spiffed up. JD's a little sensitive like that. He likes, keep high and tight, the goatee fixed. So he may be getting ready somewhere. I don't know. But we're going to say he's at football practice because that seems a whole lot cooler. So it's another beautiful Thursday evening here in the hills of Eastern Kentucky. And we've got a really cool guest tonight. I'm excited to have this person on. So let me read this little introduction that our social media director, Eric Beaudry, wrote up. The Other Side of the Glass welcomes Mr. Nate Dean, co-founder of Unlimited Life Concepts based out of Marshall, Texas, a financial institution that reveals the truths about how money actually works. One of Unlimited Life's goals is teaching the infinite banking concept. Unlimited Life goals provide you with a foundation of financial wisdom that will help you understand personal finance like you never have before. Mr. Dean's seminar, Holy Shift, which is a great name, speaks to the concept of cash versus finance and teaches you the truth about your money and how you manage it. Nate, thanks for coming on, man.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, Nate, just tell us, we always kind of start with the very general, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how you kind of got going into this direction.
Okay. Well, I grew up in East Texas, and I am 39 years old. I don't look it. I've never looked my age my entire life. And when I was in high school, I hated it because everybody thought I was 12. And when you're a high school guy, nobody wants to, be accused of being a 12-year-old or whatever. So, maybe 14. But anyways, I never looked my age. I hated it growing up, but now it's actually pretty cool. So 39, my wife and I, we have 4 kids, have 2 boys that are 13 and 16 and 2 girls that are 10 and 7. And I actually have about a 11-year background in church ministry. I went to school for business and finance, and several years ago, God just kind of moved me into ministry, opened some doors, and let me know that was the direction that He had for my life. And so moved into ministry, and my wife's actually a school administrator. And so we live here in Southeast Texas now, and just loving life. And in addition to all that, as you said earlier, I'm the co-founder of Unlimited Life Concepts. We're a financial education business organization. We just teach people the truths about money, things that they didn't learn in school. And being a business and finance major in college, learning and studying all those things, it really blew my mind once I started understanding the principle of leverage and just how powerful that could be in your life, which the principle of leverage is something that could easily be taught in school, but it is not at all. So it really surprised me once I started learning the truth about money. And once I did learn that truth, it caused me very quickly to take action. And it was because of that. And part of taking action was calling up my buddy that I've known for 27 years. We grew up together, and saying, man, I just learned something that blew my mind, and I needed to check it out too. So he is now my business partner, because it was so the things that we started applying in our lives through the concept of infinite banking were so impactful. And it was just, there was a level of excitement and a level of hope that we had just never had in our financial life before. And we just knew that we couldn't keep it in. We couldn't hold it, to ourselves. We had to tell other people and teach other people. So we were fortunate to have some great mentors who just poured into us and gave us all the tools that we needed to be able to share this with others in a really cool way.
Cool. And everybody that's watching, as we kind of get into this and we start talking about personal finance, if you've got a question, hit us up on our chat, and we will absolutely ask Nate those questions. And Nate, just kind of talk about what led. I know you said that you felt called to it, but was there something in particular that really you saw, or in your studies you saw and you were like, man, was there the one thing that kind of got you headed in the direction with this Unlimited Life Concepts and starting to kind of teach people about personal finance?
Well, through series of circumstances in my life, some just poor decisions that I'd made with money, and then other things that were just beyond my control that had kind of been piled on me. I found myself in a very hopeless, what felt like a hopeless situation at the time. You know, we were just not really able to get ahead of where we were at. You know, sometimes, you know, paying bills late and things like that, and this just came into my life at the right moment, because what I failed to realize was I actually had resources at my disposal, but no one ever taught me that I could use them in the way that I started to use them with infinite banking. So it very quickly changed my situation. And there's a concept that we teach called shifting the wind current. And we talk about, you know, a plane flying at 100 miles an hour. If it's got a 345-mile-an-hour tailwind behind it, well, that plane's now going 445. But if it's got a 345-mile-an-hour headwind in front of it, pushing it back, well, then it's going the opposite direction. It's not going the right direction. And what happened was I was fighting a wind current, this headwind that I didn't even realize was there. And it's simply because the fallacies that we're taught about interest. And you know what formal education teaches us, it's all about the rate of interest. But self-education taught me that it's not about the rate of interest, it's about the volume of interest. And of course, Jimmy, with your background being in the mortgage industry, if somebody buys a house and they just put down the minimum down payment and they just make the minimum payments, and let's say they lived in that house for 5 years, after 5 years, if that's all they were doing was just making the minimum payments, even if they had an interest rate of 3 or 4%, when they look at what they actually paid for 5 years, there's like 40 to 60% of that is interest.
It's all interest. It's
Yeah,
all front
exactly.
loaded. Yep.
And the thing is, people don't live in houses for 40 years anymore. We're moving every 5 years, every 10 years. And in most cases, when somebody sells that house and they move on to the next house, they've cleared the calculator on the interest and they're starting all over again.
Yep.
And they don't even realize it. So teaching people the power of interest and how interest could actually be to your advantage with infinite banking is something that was just it completely blew my mind, and it changed my life. And that was why I was so passionate about wanting to share it with other people.
So Nate, why do you think this isn't taught in schools? You know, something that jumped out at me in the Nelson Nash book was saying if you redistributed all of the wealth on the planet evenly amongst all the people, that within a 10-year span, that you would probably end up with 25% of the people controlling 75% of the wealth, right? And you just wonder, I mean, it's, you know, we're in 2020, we have more resources than any time in the history of the world. You've got an abundance of opportunity, and still a majority of the population is living paycheck to paycheck. Yeah. So do you think, I don't remember who the quote came from, but there was a quote, what is it? Every system is perfectly designed to get the exact results that it gets. So do you think that the education system itself is set up for that reason? Absolutely.
We are not educated to be empowered. We are educated to be enslaved. And having a formal education myself, I see that, because so there are very few things that we learn in college that promote the idea of being sovereign in your life, you know, having control and everything like that. And most of the things that we learn in college just teach us how to be a good employee and go out and work for somebody else. So there's definitely I definitely think there's a level of conspiracy to that, because when it comes to just leverage and understanding how money works, our education system everything that we see, everything that exists in some way is controlled by the central banks. So if central banks control our politicians, our education system, all that stuff, the last thing that they're going to want an individual to know is how to be empowered with their personal finances. They want to keep getting that interest. They want to keep, the fractional reserve banking system rolling. So I definitely think there is a level of conspiracy to it. The other side of it is just in the mainstream media. You have people like Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman. Now, Dave Ramsey, my business partner, and I, Brandon, we both followed Dave for a long time. In fact, Brandon was so hardcore Dave Ramsey that his wife used to call him DR in the house affectionately, short for Dave Ramsey. Like, that's how hardcore they were. They taught financial peace to people at their church and couples and things like that. They helped some of their friends get out of debt, all those things. So Brandon's always been really passionate about personal finance, but he was actually a middle school principal. And he just enjoyed helping people on the side. And then I followed Dave for a long time, but you have people out there like Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman who continue to tell people that, as an example, buy term, invest the difference is something that you hear a lot. Buy term, invest the difference. Now that's one of those things that you hear so often and you hear it from so many people, especially like financial advisors and everything like that. You just assume that it's right. But once you really start digging in and understanding that the difference between term insurance and whole life insurance, you can't compare those apples to apples. They're not even close to one another. The characteristics are so different. And that's something else that we fight against, is that buy term, invest the difference mentality. And the other thing is, those two in particular, Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman, they're always pointing people back to the stock market. You need to be investing in the stock market and everything like that. And I don't have a problem with the stock market. I do have a big problem with blindly putting your money into funds and hoping they go up. And I'm not a fan of qualified plans, especially because I hate the idea of having my money locked away for 85% of my adult life. That just, I don't get excited about that at all. And most people don't think about it that way. But once you break it down and understand that, 85% of your life, your money is locked away with the government, and they're basically, you're creating, if you're not using if you're using a tax deferred type plan, then essentially what you're doing is you're just kicking your tax burden down the road for another day. So what you are doing is you are creating an unknown debt to the government, because you don't know what the tax rate is going to be in the future. So what we teach our clients is, hey, wouldn't you rather pay taxes on the seed instead of the harvest that it's going to produce? Wouldn't you rather get those taxes out of the way? Because you ask 90% of people or more if taxes are going to be higher in the future, and they're going to say, yeah, taxes are going to be higher in the future. Historically, we're actually in a low tax level right now. So anyways, that's something I could talk a whole lot about, but I definitely think that there's a level of conspiracy about it, and mainstream media is never going to publicly acknowledge that there's a way for people to be empowered.
JD, welcome.
Yo, what's going on?
What's up, JD?
What's going on, brother? Hey, listen, I'm running ragged right now. I got home this evening from football practice, sit down on the couch, and I definitely fell asleep. I was out.
You got to have a better story than that, JD.
Well, that was after I got abducted by aliens.
So, Nate, let's kind of take this from, for people who are watching, just from a very base perspective and things that would affect people in their daily lives. Most people are going to have a car payment, they're going to have some credit card debt. They're going to have a house payment. And that, from a debt standpoint, that is the basics. And hopefully, their company maybe has some retirement or a 401k. So let's kind of start with something basic like a car loan.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're getting a car loan, how, with what you guys teach, what's your concept behind how you should handle that?
So it really just depends on timing. It depends on how long what you actually have created for yourself, and, how long that system is active, what you have access to. But, when people ask me what I do, this is a conversation that can take a really long time because it's just such a foreign concept. But one of the analogies that I like to use, and Jimmy, I'll just use this with you. So I know that you have a general understanding of real estate. So imagine buying a piece of property in a guaranteed growth market. Like, this is a real estate market that when you sign your name to it, that property is guaranteed to grow the rest of your life. That's not bad in and of itself. Now imagine building equity in that property that you have free access to all along your life. That makes it even a little bit better. Now then take it a step further and imagine being able to leverage the equity in that property to create your own personal line of credit that you own and control, where normally you would be paying interest to the bank on something like that. Now you're actually earning interest off your own line of credit. That's insane. Now, the good news is you don't have to invest in real estate in order to build a system like that, like what I described, and it can be scaled to whatever your existing resources are. So with infinite banking, we're teaching people how to build their own private banking systems that they own and control. So imagine being able to earn interest off of every dollar that flows through your hands, whether you're spending it or saving it. And then at that point, I would usually say, here's my card.
Right.
Well, I might miss this.
So
if I did, I apologize. Oh, was you done, man? I'm sorry.
say
Go
that
ahead,
again.
JD.
I was just asking, like, so what made you passionate about financing, man? Like, what made you want to get into this line of work? I mean, do you want to help people? Or do you just understand that you see the need for it, or
Well, part of that was definitely just, I've always had a passion for helping other people. But the biggest reason why is because of how impactful this was in my own life. And in the life of my business partner. And, we've known each other for a long time, and we started using these concepts and applying this, and immediately started seeing the result of those things that we were implementing. And we just knew, man, we can't keep this to ourselves. We got to share this with other people. We got to let other people know about this. This needs to be taught on a larger scale. And so I've always been passionate about personal finance. But I never had a desire to go, teach people how to budget or anything like that. That just never was something that interested me. But once I learned about infinite banking, I was like, man, this is something that nobody really knows about. But you do enough research and you find out that people have had a lot of success with this in their own personal lives.
So let's hammer down on that just a little more as far as creating your own line of credit, for example. Like, I really like that concept, where you're essentially paying yourself interest. There's, and you're basically leveraging your own money and,
Right.
Making yourself interest rather than making some corporation or some bank money. So, and again, I kind of want to go back to just somebody who might take your course. Okay. Somebody that's a beginner, because there's going to be a lot of people here. We live in an area that is very rural. It was a coal mining town. Coal is all but gone now. And, people are having to, I don't know, be slick to get by. Like, they're having to be creative and things like that. So like somebody who was taking your course and they're, just getting by paycheck to paycheck, where do you start them? Like, where does the course begin? Where does it start? I guess is my question.
So the course itself is an introduction to it's the beginning of an educational journey, because that's really what it is. We call it a course, but it's really more of a program because the videos were created just to help somebody get introduced to the concept and kind of get their mind moving in the right direction when it comes to how powerful leverage can be in their life. So once someone has completed the videos that are in the course, then the next step for us is getting a copy of Becoming Your Own Banker in their hands. Now, that was the book written by Nelson Nash. Nelson Nash is the creator of the infinite banking concept. And that book is the foundation of everything that we teach our clients. So we spend a whole lot of time up front on the educational piece, because we don't want people to just trust that we know what we're doing. We want them to know what they are doing. And, and we have people every now and then, they're like, hey, I don't fully get this, but I trust you. I'm ready to, get started. And I'm like, hang on, let's go through a couple of areas where you're kind of hung up. Let's talk through those again, because the more you understand this, the more excited you become. There's a popular podcaster named Jason Stapleton, and he was quoted on a show one time. He did an infinite banking episode one time, and he was quoted on a show, and he said, once you understand infinite banking, you'll wonder why everybody's not doing it. And probably the biggest reason why everybody's not doing it is it's actually really two reasons. One is most people can't think long term. We live in a culture that is very much about the microwave mentality, having it all up front and right now. And infinite banking is not get rich quick or anything like that. It is get rich slow. I mean, as long as you follow the strategy, we can look, because of the track record of the life insurance industry, we can look with almost certainty and tell you where you're going to be. So going through that educational process that we take everybody through, if they want to see what an actual plan would look like for them, then we go through a discovery process, and we call that the dream conversation, where we gather a little bit of information about their life to get a snapshot of their financial life. And then we also talk through goals and dreams, what you're wanting to create. And then we take all those things to the table, and then we design a custom 8-year strategy that is built around their resources and their goals. Because infinite banking is a cool idea, but it's very theoretical until you see how it actually plugs into your specific situation. And then you start to see your own numbers, and it starts to make a lot more sense. So everything that we provide, including the strategy and everything like that, that's all included in the course. So the only way that we really ever make money in the grand scheme of things is when somebody sees the value in it and they feel like it's a good fit and they want us to help them get started. So we'll come alongside them, not only as their infinite banking coaches, but also as licensed agents, and we'll write the policy and get it set up for them. But then we also, we don't treat them and street them. Once the policy is written, we don't say, hey, I hope it works out for you. We offer ongoing support for our clients, because, life's going to change tomorrow in some way. So whatever we design for somebody, something's going to change, in a week, in a month, in a year, whatever. And so we can go back and we can look and see how those changes have affected their strategy and make adjustments based on that, positive or negative, either way.
Nate, one thing that just absolutely blew me away is because I downloaded the course, and I followed you. Actually, it was like multiple steps to get. It's crazy how the internet works. I was following, I think, Scott Adams,
Okay.
the Dilbert guy that does,
Yeah.
talks about persuasion and those things. And
Right.
he had tweeted something about Ed Lattimore.
Yeah.
And I was following Ed Lattimore. And then he had actually tweeted something about you. and so I saw some things pop up, and I thought, well, this is interesting. And I started following you. And this has been, some months ago.
Yeah.
And then I was like, this is real interesting. And I thought, I told Jimmy Don, I said, we've got to get this guy on the show. And, but anyway, just the numbers themselves, as you look at the numbers long term, because I'm trying to wrap my head around this, and I'm going and I'm looking at this stuff, and I'm like, well, that's not a whole lot of difference here, here, and here. And then you hit that point down the road where it's insane.
Yeah, it is.
The benefits of that program.
So the ability to think long term is something that people struggle with, and when they look at whole life insurance, in general, they don't see the value in whole life insurance as a product, mainly because they've heard it from a whole lot of people, a whole lot of the talking heads out there, that nobody needs to buy whole life insurance. Everybody needs to buy term. Buy term, invest the difference, which just feeds the machine of the market. So with whole life insurance, this is something that I find very interesting since we started our company. I've worked with millionaires and multimillionaires who have gone through our course, gone through our process, and almost every one of them already had whole life insurance in place. They were just never taught how to be their own bank. And so if whole life insurance, just take infinite banking out of the equation for a second. If whole life insurance really was the worst place in the world to put your money, it would have been a dead product 250 years ago. But people continue to see the value in it, but it's long-term value. It's not short-term value. And like I said, going back to the culture that we are a part of, everything is about having it now. And you look at, your parents as an example. So I look at my parents as an example. So my parents worked hard, and they saved money, and, they paid cash for things or whatever. And so when I graduated college, my parents had a pretty nice house, and cars, and straight out of college, I can go down to the bank and get the exact same lifestyle instantaneously that took them 20 and 30 years to work towards. So, and I'm not knocking that, because that's the system that we're a part of. But that's one of the biggest reasons why people have a hard time with this, is because they're not willing to think long term. And I use this example with a Roth IRA. Roth IRA is really popular. And the reason it's popular is because people like the idea of getting tax-free growth on their money. Now, you're limited to how much you can put in a Roth IRA. What is it, like 12 grand a year or something like that? Yep. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Yeah. So, I don't have one. So, you can put 12 grand a year into it. Now, when you put that money into that Roth IRA, depending on how old you are, you're usually thinking, I'm going to use this money in 20, 30, 40 years. I'm going to continue to fund this thing. And, 20, 30, 40 years down the road, I'm going to actually get to enjoy the benefits of this savings vehicle. With infinite banking, if you take that same line of thinking, you start plugging in those types of funds into a strategy now. And not only are you building something for the long term, but you get to enjoy it in the short term simultaneously. You're creating value in your life right now, not in your hope for the future. So, and on top of that, if you put $12,000 into a Roth IRA and something happens to you, whoever your beneficiary of your estate is, they'll get $12,000, right? Well, you put $12,000 into an infinite banking plan and something happens to you, your beneficiary is going to get several $100,000.
Uh-oh.
Yep, I don't know.
I'm back.
There you are.
Did my audio cut out or just my video?
Just your video, I think.
Yeah, the video cut
okay.
out.
All right, gotcha. Yeah.
So, Nate, we've actually got a couple of questions here.
Sure.
First one, second one, I'm going to ask this one first, though. From Andrea Ray Bloomfield. Is this the same as LIRP, L-I-R-P? I don't know what that is. Andrea, if you're watching, maybe explain that a little bit. I didn't know if that was something I didn't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with that term.
Okay. And then the other one, Eric Beaudry asks, so for someone with credit card debt, what would you recommend is the best way to resolve and make a plan to stay out of debt?
So, a picture picture you owning an actual bank and then somebody down the road owning a bank. So if you own a bank and somebody else down the road owns a bank, where do you want your money?
Yeah, those things.
You want it in your bank.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Not in somebody else's bank. So one of the things that we teach people how to do, because a lot of people, especially when they're trying to get out of credit card debt, they're overpaying. They're paying more than the minimum payment to the bank. Now, this sounds counterproductive, but what we would show them how to do with a strategy is actually pay themselves first, which is actually going to create more momentum and give them the ability to leverage against that to be able to go take care of those credit cards. So what happens is when you make a payment to a credit card company, do you ever see those dollars again?
No.
You don't. They're gone. But if you were paying your own bank first and then leveraging that cash to go pay the credit card bill, your money is still growing uninterrupted as if you never touched it. You haven't lost that dollar. You didn't lose the time and momentum that it took to create that dollar. So the beauty of infinite banking is being able to leverage the cash inside of your policy and still go out and create value in your life while not losing that time and momentum on your money. The example that I use on Twitter, I got a pretty decent following on Twitter, and there's a video that I show people about when you pay cash for something versus when you finance something. And what happens is just on the money itself, we're not talking about your assets or the value of the vehicle or anything like that, but just on the money itself. When you finance, you're working from a negative position, just trying to get back to zero, trying to pay that thing off. But even when you pay cash, you save up and you're in a positive position. But then when you get ready to go buy that car, you drop all that money down at the dealership and now it's back at zero. So when you're paying cash or you're financing, you're always working back to the same point. So with infinite banking, you have the ability to leverage your cash where it's always going up, that's crazy.
So what Andrea messaged back, and she was saying using a whole life policy as an investment. The abbreviation was life insurance retirement plan. So I think she was asking, is this?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So infinite banking is not about investments. In fact, that on the very first page of Nelson's book, he says infinite banking is not about investing. It's not about rates of return. It's how you finance the things in your life. It's about controlling the banking function in your life. Now, it can include investments, because if you had a bunch of cash value inside your policy that you wanted to borrow out and go put into dividend paying stocks or, something like that, you have the ability to do all those things, because the sky is really the limit when it comes to what you want to create. In fact, Nelson said the reason he named the concept infinite is because you're only limited by your imagination, which is, our name of our company is Unlimited Life Concepts. So you're only limited by what you can imagine you want to do with money. So it's not a straight up investment strategy. It's a cash flow strategy that just happens to be really powerful.
Oh, that's neat. So when you're talking about, okay, because that's the way that you explain that makes a lot of sense. So you're saving all this money up and you want to pay cash for a car. And when you do that, you're all automatically right back here where you were here. Now you're here, and no matter how you do it. So how do you use here to finance and not drop back down? Like what's the idea behind that?
Okay, so this is an example that I've used on Twitter before, and it's actually an example that's in the course. So if somebody goes through the course, they're going to see this. Now, these numbers are not actual numbers that you can get at a bank, and I know that. But the reason that I use those numbers is that's because roughly those are the numbers that you can roughly expect inside of your policy. So this is an example that I like to use. Let's say you saved up $30,000 for a brand new vehicle. You call me up, you're like, Nate, I got 30 grand. I got my car picked out, fixing to run down to the dealership. I'm like, Jimmy, man, that's great. I'm glad. I'm excited for you. But don't go straight to the dealership just yet. This is what I want you to do instead. take that money, that 30,000, and go down to your local bank and put it into a CD, certificate of deposit. And let's say for this example, the CD is going to pay 4%. You're thinking, what the heck? I just want to go get my car. So all we're doing is we're just adding an extra step to the process. So then what I would tell you to do is turn right back around at that same bank and borrow $30,000 from the bank using your CD as collateral. Being in banking, you understand this. That's a collateralized loan. It's the safest loan any bank can make. So typically what they're going to do is they're going to look at what they're paying on the CD, and they're going to charge you like 1.5 or 2% over and above that just to cover some of their cost. So now these numbers sound backwards. You know, why would I pay 6% and earn at 4%? Stay with me. So let's amortize that out over 4 years. So let's say for the next 4 years, you are going to have a payment back to the bank of $704.55. Now, remember, you were saving up $30,000. You were working hard saving up $30,000. Whether that was systematic or not, you had been making payments to your savings account that entire time. So all we're doing is we're just continuing to make payments to ourselves in a sense. So $704.55, after 48 months of making those payments, you would have paid the bank a total of $33,818, which means you would have paid $3,818 in interest. The magic of compounding interest is the fact that your 4% CD is now worth $35,096. So after 4 years, not only do you have a car that's paid for, but you got 35 grand in cash. So you got all the equity that's in the, you know, even though, you know, it's depreciating, you still have, there's still value in the vehicle, plus you got 35 grand in cash. So you paid $3,818 to the bank, but you earned $5,096 at the same time. So you ended up on the positive side of interest. And that's what infinite banking is about. It's about just getting on the other side of interest where you start to recover that opportunity cost, which is the hidden cost of everything that we do. And now, again, I'm not recommending going and doing that at the bank, you know, with a CD or anything like that, because you're not going to get those numbers. I'll tell you that.
Right.
Rates are just ridiculous.
Yeah, you might get 1%, 1.5% if you're lucky.
Yeah. But the reason I use those numbers is because that's about what you can expect inside your policy in terms of, you know, what the insurance company may be. So if we just substitute, we move the bank out of that equation and we plug in the insurance company, then you're basically you're experiencing the same environment inside of your policy with that example that I just shared. So what most people don't understand, and I kind of alluded to this a second ago, is you finance everything in your life, whether you're paying cash for it or not. I say that twofold. One is you're always losing interest out of your life. If you're financing, obviously you're losing interest because you're paying interest to the bank. But even when you're paying cash, you're losing the opportunity. You're losing the opportunity that cash could have earned, because now it's back at zero. You lost the time and momentum on your money. So with all of that, the other side of that is you're always making payments to somebody. You're either making payments to the bank or you're making payments to yourself for a future purchase. So if you take all those things into consideration with this concept and understand just how powerful that can be, you can create a machine that never stops.
All right, so we got another question from the comments, Jimmy, before you go on. It says, you know, it's probably deals with something a little more immediate, you know, people's lives. It says, for someone with credit card debt, what would you recommend as the best way to resolve and make a plan to stay out of debt?
I asked that question already, JD.
Gotcha. Well, so the banking system that we build around people's current situation, the number one thing that we teach people how to do with infinite banking is rapidly eliminate debt. So we show people how to get them out of debt, show people how to get out of debt really fast by applying the concept of infinite banking. So we just look at everything that you're already doing and just show you how to maximize the efficiency of it with the concept. So we're going to teach you how to get out of debt. Now, whether you stay out of debt is totally up to you because the biggest risk in all of this is just human behavior.
So let's talk a little bit about mortgages, because that's obviously what I do for a living. And
right.
My situation's a bit different because I sell all my loans, right? So I do the loan, I sell it, I get paid a fee when I sell it. So my approach with my customers is a little bit different than it might be if I was warehousing that loan or keeping that loan in house and collecting the interest off of it myself, right? So I am all about trying to teach my clients how to pay their loan off faster. There's a joke when I'm sitting there closing a loan. I closed 2 today, and I'm sitting there and I break out this amortization schedule, and it's a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. And I'm said, okay, you can look at this part when you go home, because this is the one that makes it really real. Because payment number 1, you're paying basically 30% principal, 70% interest. And that doesn't flip essentially for 18 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you get to see it in really, really small print on 10 pages, how many payments 30 years actually is. It's in small print and it takes 10 pages full.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I always explain that to them. So I try to teach them about paying extra on the principal and how when you pay your payment matters and different things. Is there a concept that you guys kind of follow with infinite banking that you apply to mortgage loans?
So the reason that we designed an 8-year strategy for someone, because people wonder why 8 years, and that's simply because 95% of clients that we work with, we show them how to be debt free in 8 years or less, and that usually includes a 20 or 30-year mortgage. So, and it's simply just not losing momentum on your money. Keeping that, if you can keep momentum on your money, it becomes very, very powerful, and people don't realize just how powerful that can be. But it is amazing once you start to see just how simple it is, how simple leverage can actually be, and just again, like how powerful it can be. Because we had somebody recently that we shared a plan with them, showed them how, I think it was like 4 years and a month they were going to be debt free. So, or maybe 5 years and a month. So like 49 months in, they were going to be debt free, and they had 21 years left on their mortgage. So we showed that plan to them. They got excited about it and decided to go all in. They decided to push more in as far as the resources go. So restructuring their plan, we showed them a plan to be debt free in 30 months, and they got after it. And I mean, they're trucking along right now, and they're going to beat 30 months. I mean, they are killing it right now.
That's awesome, man. That's great. And Brad, go ahead. I know I'm hogging this. I'm all excited right now.
No, I was just going to ask for what is kind of I know it's going to be different for everybody, obviously, but what would be a normal time frame as far as when somebody can actually start using that vehicle towards paying off debt?
So what Nelson shows in the book, in his examples, he's usually showing people capitalizing their system for 5 to 7 years. Now, the reason that he shows that example is because he was writing the book in a very conservative way to show people overcoming Parkinson's law. Which there's a lot of different things that can come along with Parkinson's law, but he felt like after 5 to 7 years, if somebody was willing to fund and capitalize their system for that long, then they had earned the right to go ahead and start taking policy loans. Now, the reality is we'll show you how to access your cash value within 2 weeks of starting your plan. So you start to leverage your cash really, really fast.
Cool. JD, you got anything?
No, man. Like this is sounds like science fiction to me, man. Like, don't be talking trench. Of course, is why I don't have any money either. Right?
Well, see, you may have to call Nate up and let him get you on the plan.
Sure,
and change that.
So, Nate, what about the individual that is already debt free? Okay, and they may have a home, don't really have any big purchases or things that they would be financing to need their own banking system. What benefits would this system have for them?
Well, remember, it's a cash flow strategy. So until you stop breathing, you need money, you need cash. So whether you're debt free or not, having a system is always going to be better than having no system. So as an example, we have clients, and I even do this too, where I put all of my monthly expenses on my Capital One cashback credit card. And then when the bill comes in, I take a policy loan from myself and pay it off. And then I just pay off the policy loan with my income. So now what I'm doing is I'm leveraging my money in two places where I'm recovering even more opportunity cost.
Yeah, I will attest to that. Having a system is better than having no system. I can attest to that wholeheartedly because I have no system that's calling it.
We got anybody on here? So as far as, so we're getting close on our time, so I want to kind of get to this part of it. If we have people watching, or even us, if it's something that we want to get into and learn more about it, like where do we go to find out more information on infinite banking? Are there books that you recommend that they read first, or do they contact you guys and kind of get started with the program? Like, where do you start?
If someone wants to learn about the concept and they want to actually work one-on-one with me, then our biggest presence is on Twitter. So my Twitter name is Chronicles of Nate, or you can just go Chronicles Nate, or my Twitter handle is @Chronicles Nate. And so I have a personal brand that I built, and then as I've built that out, then people become interested in what I do, and so I bring them into and teach them about infinite banking, things like that. But in my bio, you can actually find a link to the course, Holy Shift: Rethinking Your Money Paradigm, and you can go through that, and that is the gateway to our educational process. You can also go to our website. We do have the link on our website, which is bethebank.me. So just type in bethebank.me, and you can click on I think there's a course link or something like that on our website you can click on, and you can find it there as well. But Nelson's book, Becoming Your Own Banker, like I said earlier, is the foundation of everything that we teach. So if you just want to kind of learn on your own without any guidance or anything like that, get that book, go watch some YouTube videos, because there's other people out there that are teaching this. Just not very many of us.
And one thing, Nate, that I thought that I really like about the course is the resources. Once I got in, it wasn't really what I was expecting. It was almost more about the resources to get you going in different directions to get the education. It's more of a continued education than you're just reading a pamphlet and then, there you go. Right. And the access, you didn't know me from Adam and didn't know at that point that I was looking at the course. I sent you a message. I think, you responded in 5 minutes. And the other thing that I like is the Facebook page being private, where folks can get on there and ask questions, because it's I'm sure 90% of the people, well, probably 100% of the people that are getting involved in learning about this obviously know nothing about it. So whereas on the Twitter platform, you might not want to just shoot you a message for 30,000 people and say, hey, and feel like you're asking a stupid question, but where Facebook is set up private for the group, I think that was an excellent way to do that.
Yeah, I think we're getting close to 900 people in that group. So it's a great resource. We have a lot of other infinite banking coaches who are friends and mentors that are in that group. So it's a great place to ask questions, because you're going to get you're going to get responses from clients who have experienced that, but then you're also going to get responses from guys who have more experience than even we do.
And so, Nate, if I'm understanding correctly, you don't have to have just it's infinite banking, but you don't have to have infinite resources to make this work for you.
It doesn't take a lot to get started. We've had clients that were fresh out of college. They were broke college students that are, just got slammed with a massive amount of student loan debt, and $300, $400, $500 a month, something like that, to start funding their system. I mean, it's a magical one. Once you kind of start to see as it rolls on a little bit longer, when leverage and that momentum really kicks in, it's magical how quickly we're able to show them how they can knock that debt out.
And Andrea Ray had asked, and which is along the same line of what I just asked, is this something that is advantageous for all income levels and age groups? So we just said income levels, it can be done at any, but what about age group? If you're 60 and you're trying to get to retirement in 5-6 years, whatever, I could see where this would be advantageous to look into as well to get yourself set up.
Yeah, we have clients in their 60s, and there's another concept called family banking that goes along with infinite banking that becomes really powerful that we teach our clients. But for as long as you're breathing and you need cash, then you need a cash flow strategy to go along with that. And you need a system that's going to help you become stronger. Because when you start recovering opportunity costs, that means your dollars are automatically stronger than your neighbors and everybody else, which means inflation that's eating everybody else alive is not eating you alive.
That's great. No, I really, this is interesting. And Brad's right. I mean, like I said, I told you before we came on, I more like to come in this with fresh eyes and listen to you talk and ask questions. But this is incredibly interesting. And I like some of the things that you're talking about. I knew, especially with like the CD. I just wanted you to explain it for the people watching. And then some of the things that I try to apply to my clients as they're paying their mortgages off. And, some of the tricks I teach them are very similar to what the infinite banking concept would be. So no, I think this is interesting. And Nate's been cool enough. If you're watching, if this is something that you're interested in getting involved in, he's actually going to create or give a discount for the viewers of Just Add Bourbon. And the discount code will be JAB25. So you'll get 25% off the course. He'll have that set up about 5 to 10 minutes after we get done here tonight. And if it's something that you're interested in, go check it out. I mean, I may take advantage myself, guys.
I didn't know that was a thing, so I'm listening a little more closely now.
Yeah, no, get us a discount, man. I said, no, as far as, and I have always felt like I was a pretty good money manager. That's what I do. But the concept, you're right. When you say you've been taught that this is how it works, and this is the only way that it works. But what you're really doing is you're propping the system up. That's exactly what they want, which is, you're paying them and not creating personal wealth for yourself. And it is, it's a very interesting concept, and I'm probably going to download the course myself and check it out.
Awesome, brother.
Yeah. So very cool. And so JD, we got to ask him the question. I mean, he's not a true Just Add Bourbon guest if we don't ask him the question. I don't care if you're a state senator running against Mitch McConnell in the state of Kentucky. I don't care if you're a biohacker that's had a show on Netflix. We ask this question, Nate, of everybody that comes on the Just Add Bourbon podcast and the other side of the glass. So, JD, have to.
Well, I mean, it can be pretty divisive, though. I would give you that.
Well, it is divisive between me and you.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know about the rest of the world, but between me and you, it's a divisive question.
All right, Nate, my man, my dog. Come on now, you got kind of so we're big Disney fans on Just That Bourbon. We like Disney, and if you're watching the television and on one channel you have Aladdin and on one channel you have The Little Mermaid, who you rolling with?
Gotta be Aladdin for me.
My dude. What up, Nate?
I'm getting crushed. I'm getting crushed, Nate. I mean, I just have to be honest with you. I'm getting crushed. I went on a streak where I got like 3 in a row and I got cocky, and JD was going to show me mercy and just stop asking the question. And because I was getting crushed so bad, and then I went 3 straight and I got cocky. So we keep doing it, and I lose every week, every single week. So go check Nate out. Like I said, Eric will post some stuff on our social media, to the website, to the Twitter handle, to all those things, so that you know where you can go find Nate and the infinite banking concept with unlimited life concepts. And Nate, man, I honestly thank you for coming on. I found this very interesting.
Thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, the finance part, that's my life, and so to hear it, spoken in a different way, it's just very interesting. I think people could benefit from checking this course out. So.
If you're listening, take advantage of this promotion that he's giving the Just That Bourbon listeners. You guys take advantage of it. and get yourself together. I mean, I'm probably gonna do the same thing also.
Yeah, so cool. Guys, we got anything else for Nate before I let him roll? No?
It's
All right.
just coming by, man.
Yeah. All right. So, of course, you can check us out all the normal places: iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music. Podbean is where we launched the actual podcast from, and then we'll get back together on Sunday and do our normal show. But as we always end the broadcast, from myself, from Brad, from JD, and tonight Nate, no matter how bad your week's been, no matter how bad your day's going, if you just add bourbon, it gets a little bit better. We'll talk to you guys later.